Very good evening and thanks for clicking on to the Thursday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. We are ending the month on a very, very wet note indeed, and it looks as if we are going to see October 2020 as one of the wettest months on record for the British Isles, or at least one of the wettest Octobers on record. As we skip through the JFS, you can see here one system after another is going to be bringing more rain as well as wind into the British Isles off the Atlantic, and it really is a bombardment of low pressure into the British Isles. Positive North Atlantic oscillation, positive Arctic oscillation is the rule, but as we skip through in the next week, it looks as if there is going to be a little bit of a change. And the tropics, as they enhance the jet this side of the weekend, looks as if may have a different influence on the jet as we go into next week here. So you can see here one system after another piling in off the Atlantic, but as like I say, as we skip to the 500 millibar height anomaly chart, what we've had is Epsilon has had influence, helping deepen the system coming into the Atlantic at the moment, bringing plenty of wind and rain. We've got Zeta that made landfall on the US Gulf Coast a couple of days ago. That is lifting north, and as it does so, like Epsilon, but over North America, that's the only difference. We're going to see an increase in the thermal gradient over North America. So cold air diving south, warmth coming north, of course enhanced by, once Hurricane Zeta. That is going to increase the jet stream, move across the Atlantic, and basically, essentially, enhance the very unsettled weather pattern that we've got at the moment over the British Isles. However, like I say, we are going to continue to see that low pressure train coming into the UK, but once Zeta interacts with the jet and crosses the British Isles, we're going to see a deeper trough develop on the backside of Zeta into the eastern side of North America. So we're going to see another plunge of very cold air. Of course, we've seen record-breaking chill across the western and northern plains of the United States. What we're going to see is we're going to see that trough push eastwards. We're going to see a reinforcing shot of cold air coming down out of Canada. And what that's going to essentially do is it's going to start to buckle the jet stream. So we're going to start to lose that west-east flow over the British Isle, the North Atlantic, and over the British Isles. I'll get there in the end. But it's interesting to see here as we skip through the loop that transition taking place across the Northern Hemisphere. So at the moment, we've got a fairly positive Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation. There's Zeta interacting with the trough. It's going to enhance the trough, but there's the ridge of high pressure coming in on the backside. Now, as that system comes through, this is in the next week, we're going to start to see it pushing into Scandinavia, and then you start to see it pushing into the high latitude region. That's interesting. So is it Zeta? Is it the tropics that eventually starts to turn the northern hemispheric pattern around from a positive to a negative Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation? So it looks as if this could be potentially a game changer as we go into the second week of November. So we're going to see the first, 4 or 5 days fairly unsettled, fairly wet across the British Isles, and then high pressure builds in as that heat gets transferred from the low latitudes to the high latitudes, and it starts to reshape the hemispheric pattern into the month of November here. So that's going to be very interesting to see as we go forward here. Having a quick look at the sea surface temperature anomaly chart here, one thing that's concerning me with regards to the winter is the warming that we're now starting to see over the North Pacific. So we've seen cooling over the North Atlantic. We'll continue to see that strong signal of the La Nina, which looks to me, folks, more Eastern Pacific rather than Central Pacific based, which is not necessarily a great factor for the British Isles here. But you can see here, as we look at the current sea surface temperature profile, We've got that La Nina here, very pronounced, very noticeable, of course. But the North Pacific is starting to see warming taking place to the south of Alaska, to the west of Canada here, and that is not necessarily a great thing, because what can happen there is it can boost the ridge over the North Pacific into Alaska, into the western side of Canada. Yes, we've got the trough, the cold air over the eastern side of North America, but that also can lead to an increase in temperature contrast between Canada and the Caribbean, increase the jet stream across the North Atlantic, and keep the NAO in a fairly positive state, even the Arctic Oscillation in a positive state as well. We do have the tripole of warm, cold, warm over the North Atlantic, which would be positive for a negative NAO, but I am concerned, I must admit, about the warming over the North Pacific as we go forward here, folks. So just a bit of a thought with regards to the winter season coming up, but we are certainly seeing a bit of a break in the stormy weather pattern. So Zeta and, of course, Epsilon before that increase in the storminess, but may in fact help bring a relaxation, more settled conditions, cooler conditions back in to the British Isles as we go into the month of November. So what also is going to be interesting to see is that we ended the month of October cooler than normal, especially across England and Wales, a little bit more average across Scotland. And one factor I will bring up here is that the Arctic Oscillation has generally been, from the month of October through, generally either neutral to negative, and that is not necessarily a good thing, because if you look back at past negative Arctic Oscillation Octobers, there is a tendency to see more positive Arctic Oscillation and North Atlantic Oscillation as we go into the heart of the winter season here. So that, in a sense, is another slight negative factor here, seeing a negative Arctic Oscillation during the month of October. But let's just wait and see what happens. We'll notice here it goes quite strongly positive, then it shoots to a negative here, and that might be in response to the heat release from the tropics into the northern hemisphere. So a lot of things going on. Keep it right here on marfoganweather.com. I'll keep you posted as best I can. Have a great Thursday evening. Bye for now.